In this lecture, I'm going to go over the difference between the global axis and the local axis. And this is a pretty important lecture too, especially if you're new to Blender. First off, the global axis is the world axis. It's the fixed axis for your 3D world in Blender. So the red x-axis here is side to side, the green y-axis is front to back, and if I go into front view, the blue z-axis is up and down. And this global axis always remains the same. Now every object also has its own axis, which is referred to as the local axis. So with this cube selected, let me go over to the object properties here and go down to viewport display. Let's enable visibility of the local axis. And you can see it in the middle there extending from the origin point. So every object also has its own X, Y, and Z axis. Now unlike the global axis, this local axis is not fixed. If we rotate the object, you can see that the axis changes. So what is the local axis used for? Well, just like the global axis, the local axis can be used as a reference for scale, position, and rotation. For example, let's rotate this cube 45 degrees on the z-axis. So now you can see the local axis, or the local x-axis, is pointing diagonally like this, whereas the global axis still remains the same like that. Now if I press G to move the cube, and then press X to lock the movement to the x-axis, it locks that movement to the global x-axis. But let's say I wanted to move the cube based on the local x-axis. Well, then I'd press G to move it, and then I'd double tap X, and that allows us to use the local axis, which is really handy. And we can use that with rotation or scaling as well. For example, if I press R, and then I double tap X, we're rotating around the local x-axis now. So the local axis gives us another way of manipulating objects. And keep that handy axis double tap trick in mind too. That becomes very useful. So what else is the local axis used for? Well, lots of stuff. Another example is using modifiers. For example, if we wanted to use the mirror modifier on this monkey head to complete the other side of it, I'd go ahead and I'd add in a mirror modifier. Now you can see that the mirror modifier is set to the x-axis, and this means the local x-axis, not the global x-axis. The reason this modifier uses the local x-axis is because if we rotated the monkey head, the object's local axis rotates along with it. And this is what makes mirroring happen perfectly no matter what. So you can see the monkey head is still being mirrored perfectly on the local x-axis, and everything looks exactly like it should still. So this is one example of why the local axis is essential for different tools in Blender. And just like the global axis is the center of the Blender world, you can look at the local axis and the origin point as being the center of this monkey head's own world. And if this local axis stuff is a little confusing, don't even worry about it because it's better understood through practice, and we'll be using both the global axis and local axis for things throughout the course. So consider this lecture to be just a primer. And again, we'll be going over more local axis stuff throughout the course as needed, but that's going to do it for this lecture, so I'll see you in the next one.